in September and October, every episode of my YouTube channel is going to feature one of your songs.
I couldn't. I love the night. That's the only time I feel really alive.
That's what David wanted.
Blood, I was to find, was a necessity as well.
A vampire in love with a slayer. It's rather poetic. I am the monster the breathing men would kill. I am Dracula.
Good evening, my fellow vampire lovers. The sun is going down, and you know what that means. It's time for me to record another episode of my podcast, The Beautiful Dead. This is not just an episode, it's a bonus episode. This was unplanned, and I will tell you why. But first, let's talk about something exciting that just happened. My fifth book, Alex, just came out on September 8th. So thank you to everybody who's been so patient waiting for this book. I'm so like honored that so many people want to read it. I'm honored that people were like anxiously expecting it, and I really hope that you like Alex's story. For those of you who read the first 3 novels, you'll know Alex. Hopefully you love Alex or hate Alex. I have no idea, but Everyone really enjoyed Reese's story, which was number 4. So now I'm bringing you Alex's story. So I hope you appreciate it. I took it very seriously. Coming up, I will be at Animate Philly the first weekend of October. I will be at Labriola's Winery here in Pittsburgh on October 18th. And then I will be at the Vampa Museum October 25th. So those are chances to get the new book or all 5 books should you want. Autographs, pictures, whatever. All right, so what is the story behind... Can you hear it, Juliet? Back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So, how did I fall upon this and why am I doing it now? So, I posted a question on Threads. I said, what is a vampire TV show that you wish got more than 1 season? And my answer was Kindred the Embraced, which you know because I've done it. And Vampire Jack Townsend said, Moonlight. And I responded, I don't think I know that one. And he's like, oh, it's incredible and it should have gotten more than 1 season. So I immediately watched it. You think I would have been prepared to be disappointed knowing that it's only 1 season when that's literally what Jack told me, but here we go. So I watched it and I'm like, well, if I'm gonna watch it, I'm gonna review it, and if I'm gonna review it, I'm gonna do it the same week as when Jack's episode comes out because it feels apropos. So that is what we are doing. You guys just enjoyed the Blood Moon and my conversation with Jack. If you missed that, go back and watch it. But because this is a whole season, I didn't really want to go through each episode, piece by piece. So we're going to go back to the old way that we used to do things, which is breaking down the universe and the rules. So here we go. We are going to talk about Moonlight. Quick summary. Thank you to the Fandom Wiki for these summaries. So, our main character is Mick St. John. He's a private investigator who was turned into a vampire over 50 years ago. His wife, Coraline Duval, Coraline Duval, sired him on their wedding night in 1952. Oh yeah, you need to know this show came out early 2000s, so that's why 50 years in 1952. He remained solo for the next 30 years, plus years of his life. Then in 1985, he was approached by a mother desperate to find her kidnapped daughter, Beth. Mick rescued the child from the kidnapper, who was his ex-wife, Coraline, who then he killed. He has continued to keep track of Beth over the years, and when this show picks up, Beth is an internet reporter and his love interest in the show. Mick meets a photographer who works with Beth at BuzzWire, who closely resembles his ex-wife, Coraline. Not closely resembles, identical. After he discovers it is really her and she is turned human, he pleads to find out how to become human so he can be with Beth. Mick and Coraline also are sort of becoming, there's a little bit of a will they, won't they, there's still like some toxic sexual attraction there. One of the characters you need to know about, Joseph. He's a centuries-old vampire. He was 4 years old in 1603, as mentioned in one of the episodes, so that would have made him 408 years old. He is St. John's mentor. Not much is known about his past, and he doesn't reveal anything of it unless prompted. Over a few episodes, he claims to have gone insane when he first was turned into a vampire, has been chased by a mob, had known Coraline for roughly 100 years before she met Mick. He doesn't understand why Mick is helping humans and has told him on many occasions that he feels this way. In episode 10, a 93-year-old man sends a mercenary to kill Joseph on the grounds that Joseph killed his daughter Sarah 50 years prior. Mick and Beth find out that Joseph was in love with Sarah and tried to turn her into a vampire. She's been in a coma for 50 years. That's why Joseph thinks that Mick and Beth are never going to work out. Coraline, as we talked about, is Mick's ex-wife. Oh, she is an empty water bowl. Did you hear that? That's how she tells me. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. She has water. Coraline, Mick's ex-wife and sire, who was a courtesan in the early 18th century France. She's approximately 300 years old. She turned Mick into a vampire on their honeymoon. The way we know for sure it's her is because in episode 9, she reveals a tattoo that we find out is actually a brand from when she was a courtesan. It's later shown that Coraline is not really cured of vampirism, but she somehow just managed to suppress it. She gets stabbed in the chest with a piece of wood because Beth thinks that she's a vampire. Coraline is taken to the hospital where her vampiric traits start to exhibit themselves as her condition deteriorates. So I think we hit sort of the major characters that you're going to hear me talk about. All right, we're going back to the old school way of doing things for people who've been following me for a while. So we start with vampiric crossovers, which right out of the gate, I caught one. Sophia Myles plays Beth, and she was Erica in Underworld, the blonde that hated Kate Beckinsale's character. She was also in The Discovery of Witches. Jason Dohring plays Joseph in 7 episodes, and he played Will in the originals. Kevin Weissman was in 4 episodes of the show, and he was Dreg in 3 episodes of Buffy. And if you know the show and you remember, Dreg was the servant of Glory. When Glory was here, he was the sort of gnome-like creature that was in the brown monk robe that was the servant of Glory. In episode 1 was Rudolph Martin, and again, the second he hit the screen, I knew who he was. So he was Dracula in season 5, episode 1 of the Buffy the Vampire Slayer TV show, which anybody who watched that show, I don't know how you feel about the Dracula episode, but I hated it. And then he was Dracula in the TV movie Dark Prince, The True Story of Dracula. No, you had a treat. Stop. No more. All right, the vampire's relationship to humans. So we learn that there are hundreds just in Los Angeles. So clearly they are everywhere. They work amongst humans, they walk amongst humans, they fall in love with humans. Some know about humans, most of them do not. It's the vampire-human interaction that I am a very, very, very big fan of. See how she stormed away because I told her no to a second treat? She's mad now. She's gonna go pout. Relationship to animals. The only thing we learn about animals and vampires in this show is that cats instinctually do not trust vampires. Appearance. They stay looking exactly the age they were turned at, which really sucks for the vampire in the 5th episode, who was a teenager with acne and will always be a teenager with acne. That is horrible. They look human until they vamp out, and then their irises turn a blue that's like so light it's almost white, and their fangs descend. Fangs, just as we like on this podcast, 2 sharp retractable canines. Blood. Yes, these vampires do need blood. So you can drink fresh from the tap, or you can get donated blood like Mick does, but the vampires do need blood. And then the vampire blood, when ingested by humans, works almost like ecstasy, which we get to see. Beth ingests a little vampire blood and gets all horned up and hits on Mick, but he does not take advantage of her. Food. The vampires don't eat. Garlic does not repel them. So that's 2 things right out of the gate.
And while we're on the subject, garlic is tasty on pizza.
Does it repel you?
Repels my dates sometimes.
Sunlight. So they can be in sunlight, but it sort of drains their powers over time, like Dracula.
What about daylight?
Daylight's not good. Daylight's not good. The longer I'm in the sun, the worse I feel.
But you don't burst into flames.
Not if I can help it.
And if they are out there too long, it will weaken them to the point of death. So there is an episode where he's kind of trapped out in the desert and he's near death, and he's able to find this sort of abandoned shack and gets in a bathtub, and they cover him in ice, or it's like an old motel, old hotel, whatever. But we know that if out too long, it will eventually kill them. Sleep. Okay, so since they can be in the sun, I initially thought, oh, well, they could just sleep in a bed. Nope. So these vampires have to sleep cold. The whole show opens up with him in this clear box, and I was like, not too sure about that. But then we find out that they have to sleep like in freezers in cold. So in the third episode, a man is turned and he's kind of left without his maker, so he goes rogue, and he's actually found sleeping in the garage fridge. It's not like the worst idea, but very shocking for his wife when she finds him. And like I said, Mick sleeps in this like refrigerated glass box. So he kind of looks like Snow White, but it's refrigerated. And we do see one sleeping in a bath of ice at one point. Holy items. Well, the opening monologue, he says, throw holy water on me and I just get wet. So clearly holy relics do not mean anything. All right, let's talk about some of the rules that I was able to catch. Film cannot capture their images, but they do cast a reflection. Then we find out later, old film cannot capture them, but digital can. So that was kind of an interesting differentiation. A stake to the heart or silver will paralyze them, not kill them, but it will paralyze them. So if you stake a vampire, he's now completely vulnerable. We see him enter people's homes without invite, so we know the invitation rule is not a thing. When a vampire is turned, the sire is supposed to take care of them, because if they don't, the new vampires are not safe alone. So if they're left on their own, they become overcome with bloodlust, and then they just kill until they're stopped. So we see that in the Anita Blake series, where like the vampires have like vampire counselors when they first wake up, so that they don't, you know, go wilding and then kill a bunch of people. Powers. They are fast, like fast enough to chase down a car, strong enough to flip it. Their senses are strong. Mick can smell when someone has been somewhere, so he can walk in a room and be like, yeah, she was here. He can hear if their heart is beating. He has visions of things that happened in an area recently. They can heal most wounds. They can't fly, but they do that like vampire jump thing that's very, very high and sort of defies gravity in a way that almost looks like they're floating. We see that vampires become stronger as they age, which is the way it should be. We learn that vampires' sense becomes stronger as they age, so you can actually smell when an older one is near you, and they don't describe it as a good smell. So they describe it as like the strong smell of decay. How are they made? Being fed on to the edge of death and then ingesting a vampire's blood, as it should be. Classic Embrace. How do they die? Fire and beheading. That is the best way to kill them. We do learn in this world that there's, like we said, not really a cure, but there's a way to suppress the vampirism. So if you continue ingesting it, you can eat food, you are immortal, you know, all that good stuff. Like we said, Coraline had ingested it and she appeared like she was human, but then once she was staked in the heart and sort of died as a human, she rose back as a vampire. We learned that it was created in 18th century France to protect the royal vampires during the Reign of Terror when vampires were being hunted. And we find out in this world that the whole reason the guillotine was created was to behead vampires. I love when they loop in real history. I love it, I love it, I love it. Heartbeat or breathing. He mentions knowing if someone is human because he can hear the heartbeat. So that tells me the vampires do not have one. Are they good or are they bad? Like most of the worlds that we cover, the vampires can choose if they will be good or bad. Mick has chosen to be a private investigator so he can help people and sort of redeem himself. Then we meet Lola, who's farming blood from her own kind to sell as a drug to humans. So you can choose what you want to do with your eternity. And while yes, there are bad vampires, just like a lot of the things we cover, we also see pretty horrible humans as well. All right, tropes I love, tropes I hate. I love vampire clubs. We've talked about this, like places where the vampires can go and feed on willing victims, or they can just go be around other vampires. I love that. We see that with Blade and the Vampire Club. We see that in so many things, and I love it. And in the second episode, we learn that there's a cleanup crew, which is vampires that, help hide the other vampires' messes. I love that. I love seeing vampire blood used as drugs for humans. We saw that in True Blood. I think that's such an excellent way to play around with the whole, what does vampire blood do to a human who's not drained to the point of death? I love flashbacks, and vampire shows and movies are perfect for flashbacks because you have so much time to play around with. Not to talk about my book again, but that's where I kind of struggled with this recent book because it's about a human who's in the vampire world. You don't get as much time to play around, whereas Reese, I got hundreds of years to play around in, so it was really fun. I love when historical events are woven into the vampires. That is what I love about this genre. I will say sometimes I get tired of I was in the Civil War. I feel like we see that a lot with vampires, but they're starting to play around a little more with that. We saw in Sinners, it was World War I. I love when the idea that the guillotine was created to wipe out vampires in France. I love that. I'll never see a guillotine the same again. What a clever, clever idea. Tropes I hate. So if you've been watching me for long enough, you know I hate that vampires can be in the sunlight. But in this world, they do get weakened, and I'm okay with that for two reasons. One, that's what the OG Dracula had to go through in the book. He could be out, but it didn't make him quite as strong. And two, I did have one of my vampires in my novel able to tolerate the sun for a short amount of time to be able to do something. So I can't be too upset about it, but I don't like when vampires can be in the sun. I also hate, and we've talked about this, vampires that hate their own existence. The brooding, you don't want what I have. You can't imagine how terrible living forever is. I don't like that. That being said, he played this in a way where he does mention how he's not happy being a vampire, but it is not his whole character. He doesn't dwell on it. It's not every other monologue. So he didn't have that sort of brooding, miserable thing that we see with Angel and Buffy or Stefan Salvatore. I can't stand that brooding, I hate myself character. But like I said, he mentions it once or twice, but he's very playful in this. He's fun. He's a very robust character. It's not the only part of him. So I was able to tolerate it in this one. And it does give his character sort of some motivation, which I appreciate. All right, let's do the ratings. How sexy or alluring are the vampires of Moonlight? The vampires don't have special allure in this world, okay? So they are not going to walk in the room and everybody is drawn to them like Eric Northman. Now, they stay the way they were when they were turned, so you can stay young forever, so we'll give them that. Their blood makes humans feel like the sexiest person on earth, so they must have a little of that in them. The vampires are very sexual. I mean, just like humans, the hot ones are hot, the boring ones are boring. The show itself is actually sexier than the vampires themselves. The music, the slow-mo shots, the scene of him cooling Beth off in the shower, even though they're fully clothed, very sexy. But the vampires are just a tinge sexier than mid. So, you know what? I even want to give them one more than that. So originally I'd given it 6, but we're going to land on a 7 out of 10 onks for sexiness and allure. It's not that they have a special draw to them, but the world is so sensual and so sexy, and the fact that their blood makes humans feel sexy, I wanted to give them just a little extra oomph to it. How scary or evil are the vampires of Moonlight? They easily hide amongst the humans and are not completely bound by the sun. They have an intricate web of businesses to support each other. Fire is really the only surefire way to kill them. Chop off their head, light them on fire. If you've been watching me long enough, you know that I tend to take a point off for certain things. That being said, these vampires do have a lot of things in place to protect them, but this is the thing I always pull points for. There is so much infighting. It makes them vulnerable. Like, they stab each other in the back, they betray each other. There's a whole lot of like vampire drama that makes them distracted. Like I always say, if they could all come together, it would be a real big problem. They can also choose what they're gonna do with their immortality.
Most vampires don't have boundaries or rules, but I do. I don't hunt women, I don't hunt children, I don't hunt innocents, but there's predators out there who need to be dealt with.
You know, they're not automatically evil. Some still have very human morals and a code that they live by. So, are they more of a threat to humans than they are a wet fantasy? I mean, I feel like it could go either way. They could give you the best night of your life, or they could lose control and eat you. I'm gonna give it to just a little bit sexier than scary. So, 6 out of 10 stakes to the heart for scariness and evil. So 7 out of 10 onks, 6 out of 10 stakes to the heart. Are we following along? Beautiful. My thoughts. I forgot how quick this was when we did it the old way. When Jack told me to watch this one, I ordered it on DVD and I was like, how did I miss this? Oh, I'll tell you why. It aired on September 28th, 2007, which was my 27th birthday, and I had a 2-month-old and a 2-year-old. So that is how I missed it. I was also watching Supernatural pretty religiously. So between making sure I caught Supernatural and a toddler and a newborn, I missed this one somehow. It just went under the radar. The first monologue in the first episode, I don't know how much I'm going to be able to play for you guys. I did give it on DVD. I got it on DVD in the hopes that I could play some clips for you on YouTube, but the first monologue in the first episode was so similar to the opening of my first book that I was worried that people will think I stole it from the show. I think I even texted Jack that. Once I got over that, I realized how similar my thoughts are on vampires with the writers of this show, and I was like so here for it. There are some incredible lines in this show. I wish I'd written them down, but I was so into it. But I'm gonna go through and watch it all over again. There are some great lines, especially vampire lines in this show. There are incredible scenes. If you only watch one, watch the final fight in the 5th episode. It is 2 vampires fighting on a roller coaster track.
If I've learned anything in 85 years, it's that what we want doesn't always matter. You can want to get from here to there. You can want to survive. But if the universe wants something different, you can run.
I was so locked in. It was so cool. There's also this shot when he's carrying Beth. It's the very first episode. He's carrying Beth out of this house that he's lit on fire as Coraline is burning behind him, and it's like slow-mo and Evanescence is playing, and I was like, oh, I forgot how great the 2000s were. The soundtrack is so 2000s. This show is the way that I love vampires to be. I love everything they did. There are some moving moments that make you really feel for each character. There is comedy that works very well, and it keeps the show from being too heavy, and that was one of the things I loved about Supernatural. All the characters have their own things that make them likable, but Mick is so crush-worthy. If a vampire would find and turned me, I want it to be someone like him. I want someone like Mick to turn me. And like, please now, before I get much older, okay? The reason Jack told me about the show is because he said this is a show that I felt deserved more than one season. So you think I would be prepared for the disappointment when it ended, but I blew through the whole show so fast. I was so upset. I actually didn't play the last episode for like a good day because I knew that once I play this, I'll never get to watch another new episode of Moonlight. If I ever get the money and influence, I am bringing this show back. Okay. And just so you know, you do not have to order it on DVD like I did. I just am one of those people that likes to collect things, and I like to have screen recordings for you guys. You can watch it on Tubi for free. So what are you even doing? Go watch it right now. All right, next weekend, come back for Professor Mark. I'm bringing him back from last year. He is the vampire professor, Father Professor Mark. He is a man of the cloth who teaches a vampire class. Mark. So come join me, because next week him and I are talking about the top 10 vampire movies, TV shows, books that we think any self-respecting vampire fan should be familiar with. We're going to compare our top 10s. Let me know how many you agree with. Thank you for joining me on this bonus episode. Go watch this. If you're a fan of my books, order the 5th book. Let me know what you think. In the meantime, I wish you wicked hugs and bloody kisses. Good evening.
And big finish. Thank